Shirley here with Sirius Dallas Moon. This is Mercury hour, Saturn day, and the moon is 27 degrees Scorpio. So we got it better with the internet. 24 degrees Mercury in Leo, with the sun 7 degrees Virgo. Midheaven ruled by the sun. Nice reception between sun and Mercury. I want to talk about, I mentioned in my previous video kind of a World War scenario, and the question of the aftermath of world wars. So if I'm not saying we're going to a world war, there probably are pressures for and pressures against, because full-fledged world war very likely means um, volunteered bunkers, and that means no one, absolutely no one, is exempt. and so, um, and so the question is, what countries are going to vouch for what countries? Okay, if we talk about the P5 of the Security Council, then we call it the victors of World War II. And then, of course, who's gonna play Nazi Germany? Because everybody Nazi, but somebody has to be the Nazi. and, and so it shows that a lot of emphasis, the attempt to put the pressure on Russia is not pushing the Article 5 to full-fledged on Russia. Okay, everything is done through Ukraine. And which is why the fear is that they're going to have another activation of Article 5 that is a smaller country. And then who's going to vouch for who? Who's going to be the axis of evil, so to speak? And if you think about Palestine, an emerging entity that siding with has certain implications because of the Muslim majority. And unfortunately, wherever there are Muslims, they tend to be a majority. Why do I say unfortunately? Because it includes genocide. And actually, one of my exercises with people that I would talk outside of Israel that would be coming from Muslim countries would be, let's make an exercise. Let's say Israel is out of the equation. How's life in the Middle East? And and it usually would stop then in its tracks, particularly if they were Christians. In fact, Bashar al-Assad bought his entire career on protecting the Christians. So if you are a leader in a Muslim country and you manage to somehow protect the Christians, you're gonna be seen as a tyrant. If you do so without raping the population, then you might even get the mandate of the heaven for quite some time. So that would be my best advice for leaders in Muslim countries. But again, if you use self-defense and you use rape, this is something that got both Muammar Gaddafi and Bashar al-Assad, I dare say, in a very, very tricky position. Aside of other things, of course. So I'll take the example of Israel. Israel was vouched for, it was released from Britain, vouched for by Stalin, and then switched hands to United States. Palestine has a question. In fact, Palestine has a lot more for it. There are the Macron open declarations of supporting Palestine, and yet they're not so quick to embrace that because they know they have choice. Okay? And there is already a trade entity. Okay, there's the Israeli-Palestinian Chamber of Commerce, which I did a very short apprenticeship in during academia, and it means we trade with Palestine. So as per trade, this is an existing entity, which probably prompted Macron because he's coming from a very economic baseline, um, and understands that if we need to trade with China, if we need to talk with China, and if we are trading with Palestine, which they are, we need to talk. We need to acknowledge. we need to acknowledge, and the reason to acknowledge that, by the way, is financial transparency at the age of air. It's trade transparency. Now, I know financial transparency is a hot topic. Financial transparency in the age of air is a heart attack topic. Pardon my French. And and so what we need to understand is that Palestine knows it has a choice on which of the countries that would acknowledge Palestine to choose, and Israel knows that too. So it can play hasbara all day long, but when it comes to the money time, we still have the Israeli-Palestinian Chamber of Commerce. Still going, not bombed. In Jaffa, Tel Aviv, next to Carmel Market. So meters away, and so this is this is a question: who will vouch for who, and of the people that want to, or the countries that want to kind of reassemble the earth, what is better to side with? There are things that the capitalism is collapsing like the Soviet Union. Yes, I have heard my colleagues talking about the fall of Romy for several years. And again, it's not just like communism never dissolved, just like capitalism never dissolved. What dissolved was corruption. If there is corruption, it's going to fall flat. Corruption makes every type of trade a bubble. And a bubble has an expiration date. If you look at Alex Karp, that's a freaking genius. Palantir, okay, bullied. Palantir got bullied. So what did the founder do? He went short on his own stocks. Then he can funnel some money back and let it see what happens. Okay, he already went short on it. Now, by the time that the other people decided whether they're gonna go short on it or not, they already got to the plateau. They got nuggets. And that's basically how the stock market works. Whenever somebody wants to funnel the money out, they're gonna do that. Even with Palantir, even with, it's not for nothing that when the Swedes did the hunger strike on Tesla, Elon Musk had to meditate. Okay, not because they did a hunger strike. It only takes one Swedish billionaire that can funnel enough just because they want to do a power move on Elon Musk, simply put. And and that's a stock bubble. So when we talk about the West, we're not talking about the Depression. We're talking about going all the way back to J.P. Morgan and rebooting. J.P. Morgan had Pluto in Aquarius. That was the French Revolution time, which indeed is Pluto return. Um, so, so we are having the J.P. Morgan stocks, the J.P. Morgan tradeway, the invention of the stock market as we know it in modern times, going through a reboot. I'm sharp today. so, so, because I was just thinking about that. I did chart of J.P. Morgan, I think 3 years ago, on my Spirit of Matter channel on YouTube. So we got the Palestinians questioning who's gonna vouch for them. Now some people say, okay, who's gonna vouch for Israel? Israel is in troubles. Palantir or not, Mossad or not, CIA or not, Epstein or not, Israel is in troubles because it switched hands to United States, did not become sovereign from United States. There is MK Ultra in Israel. Now ask yourself, does your country has MK Ultra? 99% it does. That's collapsing now. Okay, it's Ba'aden MK Ultra. What's collapsing right now? Okay, so this is now. If you think about how annoying is MK Ultra, it's not just like terrifying. This that yes, of course, it's effing annoying. Globally, that's collapsing. Originated modernly, as we know it modernly, in the CIA. I did chart of the CIA. Founding of the CIA was around Operation Gladio. That was you can look at chart of NAVO and it's pretty much adjacent. So they have a Uranus return. So polarization within the intelligences. But this we see with Saturn Neptune. Okay, it's a new way. It's calling for an innovation around intelligence. And while there is a desire to restrict sovereignty, the duality of Neptune works in mysterious ways. So when you put power on where Neptune is, that power dissolves. When you let go, then you fall into place. And this is the work with Neptune. Okay, I'll give you an example. In Israel, there was a case of ritual rape of a lady in Kibbutz Shomrat. Kibbutz, okay? And the rapists, only 4 of them were litigated. The lady at her Chiron return, before her Chiron return, committed suicide. She became mother and so on, but she could not live anymore. That was a little before 7th October. The people that raped her, that was ritual abuse. There were also children. One of them, Ofer Be'eri, is an owner of a real estate company. We are after 7th October. We understand what ritual abuse did, what kibbutzes got hurt. Shomrat did not get hurt on 7th October. And if they do the ritual abuse to have estates and businesses, then it makes sense that the entire estate of Be'eri, except for what the family or the children need to have their own housing, should be going to survivors of ritual abuse. Alternatively, that's war crimes. And this is just one example. So if we ask ourselves where to bring the housing from, where to bring the money from, this is exactly what they were asking in the Soviet Union, where the people were working for the motherland. A lot of good things were there, okay? Your children would play in the park. If you were cleaning the street, your child would play with the child of a professor in the university. And both of your labor would be equally appreciated. Okay? But something went missing. How come? In such a utopia, how come the money is missing? Here we found the money missing. Both Soviet and the capitalist. So it's that time in history. And while people thinking about realigning the world, it's French Revolution time with civil war clock and colonialism. It's a very fascinating juxtaposition. There's Sedna in the mix, there's Eris and Chiron in the mix. The biggest Eris manifestation that most the world saw, unless you tended to ritual abuse and cloned people and so on, but the most manifestation of Eris was the global intifada of the watermelon, or the Muslim Brotherhood of Satan, basically. Yes, but also with it, an opening ear to re-include the Palestinians into the discourse. So it had a dual effect. So yes, Israel is in deep problems because it cooperated with MK Ultra, with Pfizer. Now it tries to separate from WHO. And its biggest ally is in megalithic problems. There's the question of China, because China is like willing to accept everybody, they just want to own it. Those commies just want to own the country. And so there's question of Russia, okay? And then there's the question of Europe, which I addressed in previous episode. Okay, Europe is pressing for United States to acknowledge its commitment to Article 5, and United States, regardless of the president, usually plays it in a very simple way. No problem. Not only we're going to own Article 5, but we're going to go full-blown world war into it. And you're going to buy the weapon from us. So, but in a dissolving setting for, very simply put, capitalism, but particularly horn gods, the Baphometian. It's both about them trying to go global, but we have to remember Hitler also went quite viral before. And So, for my family, that's a lesson made in heaven. End of Holocaust jokes. Um, what else do we have in the sky? Actually, not much is happening. Venus released from the opposition to Pluto. Mars is applying to square Jupiter, so expect some religious zealots with arms. And expect that to happen on the trajectory of Israel, United States, United States Cancer, Israel Libra. If there's something interesting going to be with the banking in Switzerland, we'll probably hear about that. ICC, but this time with United States. In Netherlands. Achbon is keeping his documents. Palantir, where is Achbon keeping the documents? Achbon be like together with the Nokia messages. I hope Mark Rutte is not vaccinated. Because it causes cardiovascular side effects. And you see, when the people with the gloved hands visit the vicinity of the neighborhood, the EKG peaks. It's involuntary.